Final session. I hope everything's been going swimmingly for you all, and you're collecting some great ideas and information and making great connections so you can do something about it. This session is titled Smart Homes and AI, Today and Tomorrow. We've got a expert panel assembled here. I'll just go through them based on proximity. First off, Avi Rosenthal, who is the senior partner at Bluesalve. I always say Bluesalve for some reason, but I got it right this time, but I had to repeat what I get wrong. Yeah, exactly. Bluesalve Partners, which does a variety of consulting with manufacturers, integrators, builders, whoever needs their collective wisdom, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've known Avi for a long while, even from his days as an integrator and working with CompUSA and Legrand and
that was a long time.
Nortec, and it's been a storied career.
Yeah, exactly. Now I feel old. Sorry.
Next to this old storied guy is Jeff Shaw, who is the VP of Product Management. I don't know you as long, but I bet you have a storied career as well. But you're
maybe.
Yeah.
Not when he's willing to admit in public.
He's the VP of Product Management for Nice North America, which has has a great portfolio of products that make their way into new homes and has one of the strongest builder services programs on the planet. Eric Smith is the CTO with OliverIQ. I've known him about 25 years. He is part of the founding team for Control4 back in the day, and has been a consistent innovator in terms of creating platform type products, and is now working on this new venture that's pretty far along in terms of OliverIQ. And then Pete, it's Beucke, right?
Beucke.
There's no R,
right,
but we do add an R, and
yes,
we go with Beucke.
Yep.
And Pete, your title is VP Innovation and Sustainability. I think of you as the innovation leader at Landsea Homes, which is a big job because it's a big builder, and you guys really push the envelope on technology.
Yeah, thank you.
So our goal is to, I think even though AI has been around for a while in the smart home, we're at kind of a watershed moment. I think this is the beginning of a discussion that's just going to keep going on. And so I characterize this as a first look under the hood of AI, and particularly the generative AI and what it's going to mean on the smart home side of things. This is my easiest session. My previous session was my hardest one, which is why I didn't shave. I was so worried about it. I forgot to shave for the morning session. But this one, we get serial presentations, about 15 minutes each, from these three guys, and we're going to get the hot takes from Pete and a little bit of insight on what he's doing with Samsung and AI on the appliances front. And I think that will be a good dollop of information for us to close out the program on. So with that, Avi, the clicker is yours.
The clicker is mine. Wow. Good afternoon, everybody. So we're going to be talking about AI, and they've given me the unlikely position of being the educator of the group, right? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a primer about what AI is and why it's important. The first thing you should know is artificial intelligence is by no means a new concept, right? We have been talking about artificial intelligence in the technology sectors and the IT sectors for 80 years, and in science fiction, even longer than that, right? The concept that a machine becomes intelligent and can make decisions on its own is not a new concept whatsoever. However, what is new, and the reason why AI has become as ubiquitous as it has in the last, let's call it 2-3 years, is because the processing power that it takes to make these split-second decisions has become much less expensive than it was before. The thing that sort of held us back from the idea of a machine making very fast decisions was the processing power and the cost of that processing power. And I won't get into the details of Moore's Law and all of that, but suffice it to say, computers are cheaper today than they were before. We all walk around with one of the most sophisticated computers ever produced on the planet in our pockets, regardless of who manufactured it. It is still a very sophisticated computer, and it has a lot of power to be able to communicate. AI itself is sort of an umbrella term. It's all about computer software that can mimic human cognition. So what does that mean? A computer can't actually think the way that a human brain thinks. And those of you who are humans out in the audience know that we are completely unpredictable. All right? Nobody can tell from point A to point B how a human is necessarily going to react to one thing or another. Mood, temperature, weather, who knows what, the last time you argued with the last person, right? Have all kinds of different variabilities of the way that a human being thinks. The idea is to get a computer to think somewhat similarly, but less chaotically, than the way a human being thinks. What we're really experiencing today is machine learning rather than artificial intelligence. The idea of artificial intelligence is something that can sense and reason and act. What we're dealing with today has much more to do with something called machine learning than artificial intelligence. And machine learning is just that. It's the machine learning concepts and looking for trends and seeking out analytics to be able to answer questions. And that's sometimes why things go very awry, right? There are lots of times when you hear the news story about the ChatGPT who answered questions in a rather racist or unsavory way. Well, that's because a computer doesn't have the savvy that a human being does and the understanding of the politics and ramifications and other issues that come about in a human mind when they go to answer a question. They're simply regurgitating answers that they have found that others have input. And that's very important to understand, that the inputs for an artificial intelligence system are much more important than the outputs. The inputs are going to dictate how good the outputs can be. And the AI and digital assistants that are becoming commonplace really rely on those inputs, and they rely on the data collection of the information that is available to it out in the world. Some of these systems rely strictly on data that's available on the internet, but others, as you'll hear from other members of this illustrious panel this afternoon, are going to tell you about how real-world inputs also govern what goes on within an artificial intelligent environment. So, what we're all getting to and what's most relevant to this group is something called the thoughtful home. The thoughtful home takes this machine learning, takes the inputs from the data that we've been talking about, and starts to make intelligent decisions about what we want to happen within our homes. And again, the reason why this is becoming so popular is because the cost of the devices to both collect the information, distribute the information, and make decisions based on information have become much less expensive and much more efficient than they were ever before. But the caution, and there's no clock here, so I don't know if I'm running over or late.
I got you.
Okay, thank you.
If you feel a kick under the table,
then it's ready to go. So the important part to remember, though, is because these systems rely on data that is collected, sometimes they can be perceived as creepy, because now we're watching over your shoulder. We're watching every move you make. We're watching where you travel, where you go, what you eat, what you buy. All of these things become inputs to these very special machine learning systems. And so that gets us to data security and management. And the other panelists are going to talk a little bit about what they, as manufacturers and software providers, are doing about this. But some of the key factors that you should be aware of as people who will be asked to install these systems are that although there are bad actors out there, right, and bad actors can adversely affect not only how the systems operate, but they can affect the data that is collected. And so it's very important that the systems that we put in place collect good, clean data and then protect that clean data. Now you may be saying to yourself, I'm a builder. I'm not a data collector. Where's the equation? Why is he giving me this lesson? Well, every time you install a thermostat, you're putting in a data collection device. Every time you're putting in an alarm system, you're putting in a data collection device. Every smart lock, every smart switch, every smart device and every sensor that you put into your homes is in fact a data collection device. One of the things that we talk about at our consulting group is the idea that you are no longer an alarm company, you're no longer a smart platform, you're no longer a thermostat company. You are now part of the data collection that goes on a daily basis, moment by moment basis, and it is your responsibility not only to collect good data, but to protect that data and make sure that that data stays sound as it gets shared, and make sure that you inform people of where you share it and how you share it. the federal government, believe it or not, is going to wade into all of this, and this is where I will close, is just a note about the cyber trust program that is being developed right now. You may have heard that the current administration signed an executive order not too long ago governing what I call the nutritional label for smart devices. And very simply what that is it's a label similar to the label that you see on the back of a can of soup. The back of a can of soup will tell you how many calories, how much salt, how much fat, what vitamins and minerals are in that can of soup so that you as a consumer can be educated about what's inside that. The same thing is going to happen with smart devices. The requirements for digital labeling and for nutritional labeling on these devices is going to give you an idea of what data is being collected, how it's being collected, where it's being shared, and how you can either opt in or opt out to that data being shared. And so it's an important notion.
This is a past law or a pending regulation?
Nope, this is a past regulation. It is in place. It's called the Cyber Trust Labeling Program. I sit on a number of alliance boards. And we are now all working together as an industry to make sure that we adhere to these rules, because although they are not required today, as you know, the federal government is very good at, if you ignore them, they will not go away. They will just turn up the heat and make things more required. And so what we're doing as an industry is coming together to make sure that this labeling gets done in a very efficient, very well-mannered way, so that the federal government doesn't come down on everybody and make it more onerous than it has to be.
And when will it be done in an efficient, well-mannered way?
That's a really good question. So it was passed just this past winter, and so I would expect that you will see labeling by the fall. They did give us a little bit of an on-ramp in order to get the format and the information on the labeling done, but we're working, both CSA and Z-Wave have already announced that we will adhere to a certain set of standards, and then we're taking that worldwide. So there's a set in the EU and in Asia, and so worldwide we're going to do the same thing.
That's cool.
I was in DC last week with CTA at the CES on the Hill, and at a White House briefing, they said November. They expect it, but because it's not required, but it'll be start to be out there in November.
I mean, it's. I'm sure it's news to builders, right? And we need to definitely get more information out about it because it sounds useful. I think you're nodding your head, right, Pete?
Yeah. I mean, do we have to notify customers and
So that's the interesting part. So right now, there's no requirement that you do anything. Best practice would be that you would preserve those labels or make those labels available to your homeowners in whatever product you're installing so that they can, and the way I picture it, Pete, is that you're gonna have a website, and when you go through your closing, you're gonna say, hey, by the way, take a look at this website. It has a list of all of the information, and that's probably the easiest way to communicate to them that this is going on.
Right.
And I think the more that we're proactive in the marketplace, the less we'll end up with hard and fast rules and regulations from the government. And so that's the idea.
Yeah.
But you can make a requirement of anyone who sells to you.
Yes,
true. They have those labels.
And you should.
Yeah.
And you should, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a great point.
That's cool information. We need to. We'll do more with that.
Cool.
Jeff, take it away on what you're doing with AI in your current product set, right? You're the product manager guy.
So the team is working on. We'll start with. First, I want to start with talking about the next generation or what today's smart home really is to us at NICE. We don't really see it as a technology that might be something that would be novel or be put in the home because people like technology, but really it's a home management system, right? You can think about it as the entire home, everything is connected now, right? Appliances are connected now. Obviously thermostats and HVAC systems, and it's all connected anymore, right? And so you're no longer just controlling AV and some lights and a door lock. It's really becoming a much more holistic approach to home management and control. So, starting with comfort and energy management. Energy management is a big topic these days. Allowing people to use their energy smartly. We'll talk a little bit more about how we see that in a minute. Talking about, of course, home control and entertainment. That's kind of the roots and where smart home started was AV. That's where it kind of started and got its foothold. Security and access control. Again, that's a big part of it now with cameras and door locks and garage door operators and gates, all part of it. And then, health and wellness is another big area that is really important and becoming more and more important as the population ages, but not even just aging in place necessarily, but really just general health and wellness of the home. And then last is sort of service and maintenance, thinking about things like, water leak detection, right? That's part of the smart home now. It's a service. It's not something that you have to think about or care about until it actually happens. So this is, the way we see the smart home is really a much more holistic approach to what a smart home is and should be. But really, we know smart homes aren't really that smart, right? I mean, in general, the home itself is not smart. The technology is good. Smart people developed it. Smart people program it. All that is true. But we have to think about a smart home, and when it's programmed at a point in time. It's programmed at a point in time in a family's life or a person's life. So the integrator will come in, sit down, and say, how old are your kids? What are your routines? You might set up away or home routines based on that point in time. You might set up scenes or events in that space and time. But what we know is life doesn't stay still. Things change, right? Kids grow up, jobs change, schedules change. And pretty soon, you'll find that a home that has a lot of programming and a lot of event mapping done, things like we call event mapping, which is just scenes and events that happen or are triggered automatically or triggered by other events, they become out of date pretty quickly. So a scene that was important to your kids when they were 5, 6, 7 years old, they're now teenagers. Those scenes aren't getting used anymore. Or you changed your job and maybe you're working from home now. You're not working in an office anymore. So a lot of things change and life evolves. So it's really important to think about, being able to have the home evolve with the family, right? So you don't have to either call an integrator back or just live with a home that is no longer serving the needs of what you expected it to be when you bought the home or when you installed the system. So, we see a home that knows who's in the house, where they are in the house based on things like sensors and we can even use things like biometric metrics, like things like face recognition or maybe voice recognition, or even just a keypad with a code. Not really biometric, but it's personalized. We also think about sensors in the home, to the point where the technology today can know who you are by your heartbeat, because everybody's heart beats a little differently, or by your breathing patterns, or where you are in the home. So it's really important to think about that in terms of, when we're talking about, machine learning, it's not just learning about one person, but it has to know what's happening in the home with the family that lives there. But not only the family that lives there, but other people that might come into the home, right? You've got other people that come in the home, and what should it do when there's more than just the family in the home? So the home will identify who is in the home, where they are in the home, and what they're doing. Are they lying down? Are they standing up? Did they fall? Those kinds of things. All the sensors can tell us what's happening there. So looking in terms of the use cases that we see, starting with comfort and energy management, again, simple things like adjusting temperature, but not just programming a schedule. Your routine might change, and if you have a schedule for your thermostat, for example, as Avi just described, it can become out of date quickly. If you go on vacation, or if you change your job, or if something changes in the home, then you've got to go and reprogram your thermostat or whatever it is. But if the home learns when you're there, when you're not there, and it can adjust over time, and it can happen over days or weeks or even months, depending on what you're trying to do, but it becomes much more personalized at that point. The other area that we see is energy use reporting, letting people know what's happening in their home when, even to the example of tapping into the grid and knowing when prices are going to be higher based on time of day, right? So you've got use time energy, right? So if you know that it's going to cost you more money to program to charge your car, it can suggest times that you should do that instead of when you are doing it. It'll notice you're doing it, but it'll say, hey, you're paying more than you should be paying. Why don't you think about charging it at this time of day or charging it late at night or whatever that is. But again, just steps to reduce your energy consumption, letting you know what's happening in the home to reduce your overall energy consumption, and of course keep the home more comfortable. So it's not just about the thermostat, but it's about shading and lighting. If you have, if the system knows that the sun's out and it's hot, it will suggest closing the blinds or closing the shades. Or turning off the lights and those kinds of things. So it's really more of a suggestion engine rather than a machine that would do it for you. Now we can get to that point. Some of the things that we talk about might be done automatically, might just get to that point where the system does it. But we're leaving this, and we'll talk about it in a minute, leaving it in the hands of the homeowner, letting them decide.
I think that's an important point, right? Because we aren't at the point where there's a lot of trust in all of these things being done without permissions.
Right.
I like the term suggestion engine a lot, I think it's a good guidepost.
It is.
For the builders out there.
And Avi talked about the creepy factor. We want to make sure that people are comfortable with technology before they have it foisted upon them. I don't know Who in here has a phone that made a suggestion to you? I gave this example earlier today, but has it made a suggestion to you about doing something based on your habits? The first time you saw that, you're like, oh, that's a little weird. Kind of cool. I was like, that's kind of cool, but a little weird. Like it knows what I'm doing. So you want to make sure that we manage that very, very carefully, and that the consumer, the homeowner, knows what's happening before it happens to them. Of course, the other area is home control and entertainment. Personalized settings, of course, for that individual. They walk in the house. The system recognizes that they walk in the house every day at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They put on a specific playlist. They set the temperature to a certain setting. They do the lighting, and the system will know that and suggest, hey, I noticed you did this 3 or 4 times. Would you like the system to just do that for you? Again, learning behaviors. The other important area is parental controls. You can program parental controls, but again, like I said, lives change. Kids grow up. You don't want to have your kid have to have settings for a 6-year-old when he's 16. He's going to get annoyed. He's going to have to keep asking you to change it. What if the system just changes it for you automatically? I know my kids are annoyed at me. And think, Dad, I can't see this movie because your parental controls. I got to go fix it or change it. So. If that can happen automatically, or at least give a suggestion to you saying, hey, when you program this, your son was 6, now he's 16. Do you want to change it? Yeah, I do. Boom, it's done. It's quick. It doesn't have to. I don't have to think about it. And that's where we see the evolution. Another really important area that we see is security and access control, right? So if you think about learning routines, as the home learns your routines, the home can then play back those routines when you're not in the home. So you put the home in away mode, or you don't even have to put the home in away mode. You leave the house knows you're gone. It knows nobody else is in the house. So now it just automatically goes into away mode. And what happens then? It makes sure the doors are locked. It makes sure that the security system is armed. It makes sure that maybe there's a routine that you have where the lights turn on, but based on what you've been doing in the last several weeks versus what you did when you programmed the home 5 years ago, the routine changed. Now if someone's watching the house, they'd say, well, that doesn't look like, but they're not home. That's just it's just a routine that they programmed. So it makes it a little bit more lived in, gives you that lived in feel. Access control is another big area, knowing, with cameras, who should be at the home, and this is outdoor cameras, exterior cameras, who should be there, what license plate should be coming up to the house. Another example I give is if you buy a new car, new license plate, the system will learn that new license plate. You don't have to call the integrator to program that license plate in to be able to recognize that, because we do have license plate recognition today. That's a technology that exists, but it doesn't evolve. It doesn't, people aren't able to evolve that technology. So. I know I'm trying to rush through this. I'm not sure what my timing looks like.
I just want to, a couple of questions. One is we talked about knowing who is in the house, where they are, and what they're doing.
Yep.
And then a lot of interesting functionality that you just walked through. My question is where are we on the horizon of availability? Is some of this available now? Or when is it coming? So
what we're working on right now is personalization, really sort of personalizing the home for the individual. That's step one.
Yeah.
And the next steps of the home learning is on the horizon for the next year or 2, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So the personalization aspect.
I know
of it,
product managers hate to be tied down to timelines, but we're going to see some of this by the end of the year and more of it next year, or what?
You'll probably see some of the personalization aspects by the end of the year. So knowing who's there and being able to have the home react to an individual and present up a user interface for that individual. Okay. That's where we're starting to get that level first.
And Jeff does bring up an important point. The personalization side is very important to people until they realize that the way that we have to track an individual person tends to be on the creepier side. So that's why there are some new technologies coming down the pipe that will do things like track heartbeat and breathing, so that we're viewing without viewing, right? It's a camera without cameras.
Exactly. It knows how many people are in the room. It knows who the people are, whether, like I said, they're standing, whether they're sitting, whether they've fallen, or whether they're lying down. Again, you can't see the person. You just know it's a data point. That's all you have, and there's no tie back to the person.
All right, let's come back out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I'm giving you the 3-minute warning.
Okay, 3-minute warning. Okay. Well, so let's talk about health and wellness is a big area. One of the big areas, of course, is just air quality is a big area. We want to make sure that we can manage the air quality in the home, and we know that what's happening, and we can do things like suggest that someone turn on this air circulation system before they start cooking versus after they've already started cooking, and recognize that the CO2 levels have gone up. We can know that's coming because they cook at a certain time of day. So giving those kind of suggestions, fall detection, circadian rhythms, all that stuff is part of really important to health and wellness. But I want to talk about privacy considerations. So again, this is something that's really, really important. It's not only the creepy factor, but we want to make sure that the data that we have, the way we are doing it, it's all going to be on premise. It's going to be on the controller system itself. Just like we do with our surveillance system, everything's on premise. The feed does not go to the cloud. Our solution is all on premise. All the video, all of the data, all of the personalization is on premise. There will be some identification that'll have to happen, some processing that'll have to happen in the cloud, but that's just a number, and it ties back to the on-premise data. That's really important to, I think, to anybody really. At these points, and of course we talked about data security. Very important to NICE to make sure that we have that data secure, that it's our servers, that we're not, that data can't be breached. Again, the data that we're storing at that point really is just a number anyway. It doesn't tie back to the system, and you can't get into the system. It's completely firewall between what's happening in the cloud and what's happening on the system locally.
The cyber labeling initiative addresses this stuff, right?
It does. It does.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to say is just, I touched on it earlier, but it's really, really important that we leave, at least for now, the control in the hands of the user. They can choose to do nothing. They can choose to do whatever level they want, and it's completely transparent. They know what's happening with the system, so there are no surprises. Because we really don't want to freak people out, and make sure that what we're doing really makes sense for.
Sometimes you want to freak people.
Maybe sometimes.
Pete, do you want to jump in here? Just
Sure.
I don't want us to get too far from some of this. The primer was one thing, but the functionality that Jeff laid out, I'd love to get a quick hot take from you on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's right on it. It's funny. I like machine learning versus artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I think our home buyers get freaked out, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We get questions about, well, are you collecting data? And the phone example is great. All of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I was just talking about a coffee table, and next thing you know, you've got coffee table ads popping up. But I think for us, it's really important to have a packaged solution where all these things have been thought about. The security is number one, and so
The data security.
yeah, data security.
Yeah.
So for us, that's why we chose Apple HomeKit originally, and I think that's played out well for us because security is a big deal.
Yeah.
So
Cool. I think it's interesting. We're getting a lot of the technical piece here because we have a lot of engineering and technical types on this panel, but the language piece. There's the creep of the functionality of the tech, but the language that we use to talk about it is a huge factor in how it's perceived and received. And it's like we don't get our comm teams together to work on the language and get it to a more acceptable
I think there's
world too.
big opportunity there.
I'm a comm guy, so I get a little carried away
Yeah.
with it. All right, let's move it on to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith goes
Yeah, so
to
I'll start.
Nashville.
Yeah. It's funny, I was just here 5 weeks ago too. I like Nashville. It's a great place. So let me just tell you a little bit about who we are, and then I'll dive into what I want to talk about, which is neural networks and large language models and how those can apply to what we're doing. So who is OliverIQ? I'll just quickly go in here. So we have deep experience in smart home. I've been doing smart home systems. I actually built my own system based on an Apple II in 1981. And I thought I'd invented it, and then I found out about Cedia and found out I didn't invent it, but was glad there was a channel. Cedia is the custom integrator channel that those dealers kind of deal through. But Will West and I are the founders of this company. We were the founders of Control4. If you're old enough, if you remember from about 98 to about 2010, if you went into a hotel room, you probably saw IBAN and had to pay $10 a night for the internet. That was us too. And so
Thanks.
Yeah, really.
it was a great business, actually.
I want my $10,000 back.
And we charge you, if you had a booth at the Javits Center or the Moscone Center, we charge you $2,000 for your booth per day. We definitely were those guys.
Where you're inflicting
Anyway.
pain.
Yeah, really.
Deep
I'm getting
experience in
PTSD.
networking and smart home. Control4, if you don't know it, it sells into the high-end market, kind of I'd say it's a little more expensive than a lot of the products from Nice, but it's one of those products in that space. We kind of know it well. We took it public 11 years ago, and anyway. But I just want to quickly say, what is a smart home? And this is the page of what it's not. If you have 8 different devices, each with its own app on your phone, that's not a smart home. That's being able to control things from your phone. That's not a smart home. And smart home is when things work together. And Jeff talked a lot about those kinds of things where you really get the benefits. And the challenge is the connected home is a huge opportunity. There are so many different smart devices in a smart home. They're all over the place, and it's almost everything is connected now. I bought a Pebble Ice machine the other day that was connected. I'm thinking, what on earth do I need to know about? What is it going to tell me that I care about?
Temperature, the volume. I can think of a dozen things, but that's what's.
I'm not sure.
But everything's better with Bluetooth. You never
Everything's better.
Everything's better with Bluetooth.
Anyway, the connected home's full of opportunity. Okay, there's finally enough ice in your maker so you can go get a drink. It's time, a sweet tea, whatever. But what consumers really care about is not all those technologies, but the benefits you get when they work together. So security, safety, comfort, convenience, entertainment, making those things work together. And Jeff covered this really well too before. But the challenge is making all those things work together is hard. It's not easy to make all those things work together. And lots of gigantic companies have tried to do it, and some have done better than others, but it's a challenging thing to do. As a matter of fact, that's the whole reason for the Matter, if you've heard of Matter as a standard, is trying to solve that. I will tell you, I think Matter's great, but I also think it won't solve it. I think it's going to do some good things for the space. And I'd say, how do you get a smart?
We'll always have lots of standards.
Yeah.
The whole idea of a standard was one standard, but we're always going to have lots,
Yeah.
right? Let's just call it a gate.
It's another way that
Right.
maybe we'll get some beneficial things. But how do consumers get smart homes today? I would argue there's 3 doors they can go through. They can go through the custom installs channel. That's where they get products like Nice Home. They get things like Savant, Crestron, Control4. There's a lot of them out there, lots of great products. And you get a really great system. And if you're selling high-end homes, it works great, and I recommend it highly. The challenge there is, depending on the product, you're talking thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars to anywhere up there, and it's out of range of a lot of customers. Your second offering is your smart security offerings, and actually Nice has some of those too. So it's a security panel with some extra devices and things like that, and Vivint, Alarm.com, they're great products, and you can get into a base offering. A lot of builders do those kinds of things, and then the only other option between those two really is DIY. So those are your choices. 1, 2, or 3, door 1, 2, or 3. And we felt like there needed to be another option. And so that was the genesis of our company, is trying to give you that other option. And we've built a platform that does that, and come see me if you want to learn more about that. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But I have a computer science degree. One of my areas of focus was neural networks, clear back in the 90s. Neural networks is when you simulate neurons in a brain it's a kind of machine learning, and you literally train it with data, and you look at lots and lots and lots of data, and you build essentially tokens and nodes, and you connect them together in the same way. And so the way ChatGPT works, the things that we're most familiar with that, because it's been all over the news in the last year and a half, is it scans like the whole internet and tons of other data, and just scans all this data, looks at all the words, and for every word, basically by reading tons of data, it creates connections. And those connections build a model where it knows how words are related and why they're related and things like that. And then what you can do is, and again, this is a lot of detail about how they pull them together, but in the end, a large language model is essentially a neural network that's been trained on billions and billions and trillions of pieces of data, right? Just all brought together. But what you end up having is, but what a large language model doesn't have is any kind of intent. It doesn't know what's going on. It doesn't know what's happening. Literally, it takes the words you put into it, it tokenizes them, and builds relationships with them, and then it feeds that to another model that takes those words and then starts word at a time and just doing a probability. What should the next word be? What should the next word be? What should the next word be? What should the next? That's all. It has no idea what it's saying. It's just using probabilities based on the models and based on the questions, and that's all it knows how to do. So it has no intent. It has no ability to think. It has no, but it's really good at it, and it's remarkable what it can do. And if any of you guys have all played with ChatGPT, right? Awesome. It's remarkable what it can do. But it's really kind of stupid. It's just got these relationships. But it can do some things really well. So how do we leverage AI? And I would argue we do it 3 ways. We have a chatbot called Ollie. And you can talk to this chatbot, or you can text to this chatbot, you can type to it, and it's right now in our apps. We'll eventually have a smart speaker that has Ollie in it. But you can use chatbot to do a lot of interesting things, and it leverages LLMs in a very interesting way. But the first space we use it is for technical support. I think if you've ever had a call center, what you know is you have a lot of turnover on employees in those kinds of call centers. And most of what a call center is an employee that gets a phone call, they listen to the language, they try to understand the question that's being asked, they type into a computer. Maybe they've been there long enough that they know the answer, but typically they're typing into a computer looking for the answer to that issue. And then they regurgitate that answer, they read it back to that person, and they try to do it. And hopefully you've built your tools and your knowledge base so that it's smart enough to kind of deal with all those things. Well, that's the kind of thing AI can be superhuman at. If it's just taking a set of information, understanding a question, until large language models existed, it wasn't so easy to do this. But what's really powerful now is you can take other technology, so on top of like a ChatGPT 3.5, you can lay a vector database. I won't bore you with all the technical details, but you can lay a vector database and teach it the things you want it to answer questions on. You can also put guardrails in so it doesn't go outside of those. So like if you ask Ollie, what do you think about Donald Trump? It will say, I'm not trained to answer questions about Donald Trump. If I just let the large language model ask, it might send us all kinds of crazy stuff. And we don't know what it would say. But we put guardrails in so it only answers about what we're asking about. And so it says, hey, yeah, I'm not trained to do that, but if you have any questions about OliverIQ or products it supports, and so we trained our model on not just our products, but every product we support, from Lutron lighting to Leviton lighting to Ring doorbells, so it knows how to answer all those questions.
You're telling me that consumers need tech support on smart homes?
Occasionally do.
Okay.
And let me just tell you about our business model. We're just a software as a service. We sell smart home as a service, and you can literally bundle, you can prepay the first couple of years for your systems, but it's, think $10 a month, and it goes down with scale. Yeah. So we will literally take every call for all their IoT devices, and it's because we leverage technologies like this. Very inexpensive. You don't have to worry about phone calls after the house has been delivered. It works really well.
I kind of said it as a joke. I just want to emphasize this is the crazy ant in the basement. We've talked about it before on the stage, is the long-term technical support for the customer, right? And you're addressing that with a lot of the way you're deploying AI, but it's a great challenge for us to leverage this technology.
By the way, we know when we submit to our thing a question, it gives us a confidence level. So our engine will actually say, I'm 80% confident I have the right answer. If we can choose the threshold, but we can say, hey, look, if I'm not 80 to 90% sure that it's the right answer, Ollie will just say, let me transfer you to someone else, and a human answers. The beauty is, once we see that new question we weren't confident about, we can train the engine on that, and it'll answer that question every time after. Let's talk about another thing, for command and control. You can take, we've all done it in Alexa, Google. If you come to my little booth upstairs, you can see me doing it. We'll say, hey, turn on the garage light, set the temperature. But it's pretty limited in the things you can say. It's limited command sets. With a large language model behind it, you can say things to it and say, I can say, help me save energy over the next month. I did that in a test with Ollie the other day. I said, help me save energy over the next month. And it actually changed some of my lighting schedules to be less aggressive, and it also changed my thermostat schedule to be a lower temperature in my heating because it's the winter time. I didn't even teach it that. I just told it the commands you could tell the system, and it figured out how to save energy on its own. It was remarkable, and that's what AI can do in superhuman ways. It's really amazing. So you can talk to it in natural language. Not only that, even though I've trained it with all the command classes, which are JSON objects, if I want to bore you, and I've told it the command classes in English, if I talk to it in Finnish and say, turn on all the lights on the main floor, it does it. And it answers in Finnish. That's part of what the ChatGPT gives me.
I really hoping he was going to say turn on all the lights in Finnish.
Yeah,
anybody else wondering that? Right?
How about this? Apague a luz do banheiro. That's Portuguese. That's turn off the lights in Portuguese.
Portuguese is too easy.
It does.
I wouldn't know the difference.
It does do it, and it's remarkable. And you can talk to it or you can text to it. It really does some really interesting things.
Cool.
Let me talk about the last area that I think is getting really interesting, is for programming experiences. Our custom programming, some people call them routines, some people call them scenes, some people call them other things. Some people call them events, some people call them triggers. We call them experiences. And so you can custom program experiences in natural language, in any language, and it's really remarkable. Like you can just say things like, every day that I come in home, every weekday that I come home after 7 p.m., turn on Sports Center and light a path to my bedroom. And it can figure those kinds of things out. It is remarkable what can be done. Humans can talk to it in natural language. And that's how we can get to a point where we can actually deliver essentially what you could call like Geek Squad for your home at very, very low price points. Again, all you need to work with us is our hub, and it's $100. and the monthly fee, and it's done. And if you sign up a package ahead of time, we can come do the rest afterwards.
Because of the guardrails you created and because of what's being fed in there, the inputs as you discussed, it's different than asking Alexa to do a home control command, right?
It is very different.
Yeah.
So we keep it limited. But we also, leveraging AI, we can do broader things than you can do with those things. Anyway, that's kind of what we're about. We think AI is really going to change the world. We think it's going to be the way everything's done in the long run.
Yep.
And we have privacy guarantees too. I don't have a slide about it, but we guarantee we won't share your information with anyone else. And we think it can create compelling experiences.
Great, thank you. Pete?
Yeah,
More hot
I wish
take.
I had Ollie when I was in college. That would have helped at
So
this 11th hour.
It's very interesting you say that. So I have children of college age, and all of them are going through classes to teach them how to use these AI tools in their daily lives, because it's expected that we will all be using these kinds of tools every day.
Really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want, I didn't realize you had multiple
No,
windows
I think
on.
I have 2 slides, so you can control it.
Okay.
So with Landsea Homes, we really leverage our high-performance home platform, and it's really based on 4 pillars: home automation, energy savings, sustainability, and healthy lifestyle. So we're kind of touching, all those areas. And so we're constantly looking at the program. What do we add? What do we take away? Is it valuable to our customer? And so that's really kind of our DNA, our platform. So in terms of AI, we partner with Samsung, and we're starting to see some of these features come through in some of the new appliances that are coming out. So, it depends on whether you want to change the color of your refrigerator, if that's cool to you. There are a lot of different things happening, but I think just kind of that recognition, like, with the refrigerator and the recipes that, we've heard about, that's pretty cool. Being able to push upgrades, like an air fryer into an oven, I think that's phenomenal. I know GE has the all-in-one laundry combo upstairs. Pretty cool. It's fun to check out. Samsung's got their version. It's got a heat pump on it. It's ductless. So you're starting to see some of these appliances that have cameras and it's pretty wild, But
I like the AI food detection that Sean talked about this morning.
Exactly.
Because I want an alert when the celery has gotten too wobbly for me to let it sit there anymore.
Yeah, they did it. Samsung did a demonstration at IBS that was pretty cool, just in terms of taking vegetables out and creating a list, shopping list, and that type of thing. So
cool. Great. You guys have any questions for each other?
No,
Do you
this
have any
is like
questions
the
for
third
these
time we've done
guys?
this.
No.
We're getting pretty good at it.
They've been doing this in other rooms. So
Another track. So.
they're sick of each other. How about out there? Peterson, you got to ask a question. I'm calling on you. I should call on people in the back of the room because they're trying to escape it.
I heard he's not in any condition to ask a question.
I'll repeat your question. So for the video, it's a question to Landsea as to what other application areas are they looking at as key for AI?
First of all, on the marketing side, we use a lot of AI. And, I would say for us, really, appliances has been kind of our first venture into it. But, the machine learning, I think all the builders are learning every day, based on our customers. Customers are getting very sophisticated. It's interesting. We build in the Bay Area, and we have customers that have higher demands in those areas than they do in some of the other areas we build. Sure. And so, it's up to us to really take all that in, and I think that's where we'll tailor how we build and what we build in the future. Yep.
I'm going to ask the audience a question for the builders out there. I mean, are you overwhelmed by AI? Is it too much coming at you so that now you're going to get frozen for another 25 years before you do anything with smart home? I mean, where are we on this? Is this boggling to you, or do you feel like it's accessible, or what do we need to do to make it more accessible and understanding and actionable for you. Anybody want to comment on that?
Nope, to your
Over
right,
here.
oh, in the back.
Go ahead. So to summarize for the video, you're looking for practical advice from the industry on how to deploy this in the multifaceted ways that it gets
Yeah,
deployed.
and
I know you wanted to talk about builder customer care and AI and stuff beyond the smart home
Beyond that,
piece, but
and that's a great question. And a lot of the building technologies, we've been talking about AI up here about what gets installed in the home, but the truth of the matter is, as high volume builders, you're dealing with issues every day that your human superintendents are struggling with, right? Yep. Do I send the roofer out to do which lot in the morning? What's the weather going to be like? Is the sheetrock being hung in lot number 6, right? Are the cabinets running late? There's 1,000 little decisions that determine the execution of your home and the building process. AI can leverage all of those data points in order to bring them all together to make your human supervisors that much more efficient. It'll take into account things like weather and lateness or earliness, because earliness is just as much a problem as lateness when you're dealing with sort of the dominoes that'll have to fall for your home to get built. And so what AI is going to do for you is make it easier for your people to make good, logical decisions about what's going on in their daily lives, whether it comes to marketing, right, where they can use it to generate content, or in the field where, the inspector didn't show up at that house, and now I have to shift things around because you can't hang the drywall until you get the certificate, and you can't. All of that kind of data gets put into a system and then allows your people to make much better decisions and make your subs much more efficient. And so that's really where it's headed in the builder market.
And actually, some of that is you're a victim of the space-time continuum, because across the hall, in the digital solution segment, they're looking at AI applications across the process areas of home building too. So view that one online at builderinnovator.com when we get that video up, and you get some insights on that front as well.
Exactly.
What other, how else do we feel? So we want practical advice. We like the cyber labeling thing. What else do we need?
I'm curious, have you been approached by home buyers, potential home buyers looking for these kinds of smart installations without going for the Crestrons and the Savants and the really high end? What kinds of questions are you getting from home buyers about things like, I'm going to have my older parent with me. How do I monitor whether or not that older parent is okay? Or, I've got young children. How do I deal with that? Or parental controls or content division. What kind of questions are you getting about the integration of smart technologies within your homes?
That's a tough one.
Don't all speak at once.
One thing I'd respond to that with.
I guess you're not a lawyer. Sorry, go ahead.
We're starting to build more ADU units. So, above the garage, detached. We've got multi-gen, that type of thing. So just the product that we're building is changing. And so that introduces some questions that we get, in terms of connectivity and the smart home, and hey, does that apply to my ADU? And so as we build different products, it introduces different questions from.
Yeah. I think my question, and I'll just ask you, is like, how long do we need to do the introduction and the primer on AI before we cut to the chase and answer the practical questions of its application? Do we have to do it for another 6 months, or can we move on to here's what we're doing?
Well, I think, you're talking to the audience. I think that we're far enough along where, we can get deeper into it.
Be careful, you're about to talk me out of a job.
Yeah.
No.
But, things move fast and it's always changing. And so I think the updates are very important. I think, just the labeling and super important. That affects us all, affects our disclosures and like we talked about. And so, I think that's super important. The overview of where we are today is super important.
Yeah, I just think talking about the AI or whatever word you use, machine learning. I think it needs to be demystified for people. I think people don't really know what it means. I think
that's a good point.
A lot of people don't know what it means. And if we can sort of say, well, this is what it means to you in your life, then it's sort of okay. Now I understand it. Versus AI, like what is that?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people need to just get that explanation.
Very good, guys. Great primer, and also talking about state of progress on AI. Everybody's email addresses are up there if you want to ask for more information after the fact. I want to thank you all for being here for all 5 sessions of the program. Hope you came away with some good ideas, some nuggets that you can go to work on. With that, we need to give our sponsor, Jinko, their 1.5 minutes of video, and you need to rivet your attention on the screen and the sound system as that Jinko Solar video plays. Play it, Sam.
My name is Adam Dietrich. I'm the U.S. Director of Product Management and Technical Services for Jinko Solar. Jinko Solar is one of the largest global manufacturers of solar modules. We're the first company to have deployed 165 gigawatts of solar modules globally. 18 gigawatts of that has been deployed into the U.S. market alone. 1 in 10 solar modules in the world is a Jinko Solar module. For this demo home, we're using our Eagle Continental modules, which are manufactured in Jacksonville, Florida. We have a 400 megawatt manufacturing facility there, and this module that's on this home is unique to the US market, and it features an all black construction, so it looks really nice on the roof. The Tim O'Brien home also features our Eagle RS energy storage system, which allows homeowners to capture the energy from their solar modules and store it either for backup or selling back to the grid at a later time. With the Jinko solar modules, the homeowner can get clean energy separate from the utility grid. Paired with the Eagle RS energy storage system, they can store that solar energy for later use or use it in backups in the event of power outages. The combination of the solar modules and the energy storage system will allow many homes to have no electricity bill for the rest of their lives. And we're really pleased to be working with Tim O'Brien to feature it on their home.
Very good. Jinko's in booth 315. Thank you for being brief, Jinko, with your video, and very organized and clear. And thanks again to the panel.